Welcome back to the channel. Well, like so many of you, I've had a pair of Charlie Rudder pedals from Honeycomb Aeronautical on order for several years now. The recent reporting about the ownership struggle at Honeycomb has convinced me that it's no longer worth waiting. Since I own the Alpha and Bravo, it only seemed natural to go with the Charlie Rudder pedals, but I have to admit, the one time I did get a chance to try them at a trade show, I wasn't all that impressed. First of all, there's a lot of plastic there. It's quite large. And also, I didn't like the resistance on the braking. It was very soft. I currently have two sim setups. One uses the Rudder pedals from Virtual Fly, which in my opinion are the best non-force feedback rudder pedals that you can buy. These things are built like a tank. You can literally stand on them with all your weight and you won't damage them. And they have load sensors instead of measuring just the angle of the pedal in order to determine the braking force. That's so realistic. When you're driving your car, you push, the pedal doesn't move much, but you feel the pressure and you can precisely control the braking of your car. These are the same way. The problem is they cost a lot of money. We're talking $1,300 to $1,400 at least shipped from Spain, and you may have some import duty also. The rudder pedals I use on my VR sim are the Satec Pro Flight Combat rudder pedals. These were discontinued about 7 years ago, and while they've given me good service, I had planned to replace them with the Charlie. While I like the all-metal pedals, there's still a lot of plastic here, and I was always afraid to really push hard on them. The braking was also a bit weak. So which rudder pedals did I consider, and which did I select? Well, first, because of my real-life flying experience, I don't like the rudders that require me to put my heels in a cup up off the floor. I prefer to have my heels on the floor and the balls of my feet on the rudders and having to raise my feet to press the brakes. This is just what I'm used to, so it ruled out a number of choices, including the Satec rudder pedals, the Turtle Beach rudder pedals, the Thrustmaster T-Flight rudder pedals made of plastic and inexpensive at about $130. And if this is all you can afford, this is much better than not having rudders at all. In fact, I bought a pair of these to use with Xbox when I was testing Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 on Xbox. And finally, I ruled out the MFG Crosswind rudder pedals for the same reason, but I've now learned in the research for this video that they offer a number of pedal configurations for various aircraft. Finally, I considered the Thrustmaster pendular rudder system. I ruled it out because of its high price at $600, and I really didn't want that fire hydrant sitting between my feet in my simulator. So WinWing's presence at Flight Sim Expo made me aware of their product lines and their seemingly too good to be true pricing. And for $328, their all-metal rudder pedals looked robust. It was too good to pass up. So I began to place the order, and I was surprised at the final step when I saw the $160 shipping charge to the US. Suddenly, a great deal seemed like only a good deal. Nevertheless, I pulled the trigger and waited 2 weeks for my rudder pedals to be delivered. Well, they arrived well packaged, and here's all that was contained in the package. There was some assembly required, and sadly, there was no documentation at all. Not even a card with a QR code to lead me to instructions on how to assemble things. I have to admit, everything looked really well built, solid, all metal construction. And I ordered the damper model, has a hydraulic damper to restrict or adjust the movement of the pedals, to adjust the feel. Fortunately, I was able to search YouTube and find some tutorials on how to put this thing together. Otherwise, I would have been guessing what to do with the bags of hardware in the support brackets that were included. I also found a bolt missing from the main frame used to connect the brake control arm to the pedal. Purchasing long distance from China does have some disadvantages if you're shorted parts or if you need warranty repair. The shipping costs make it almost prohibitive. Fortunately, I had the bolt on the opposite side and was able to source it locally. Once it was constructed, I have to say I was pretty impressed. There was good resistance on the brake, not as good as the Rudder, but better than most. And the rudder movement was quite smooth. The pedal angles are adjustable by adjusting the turnbuckles on the brake control arms. And the damper adjustment is a simple knob mounted on top of the damper, allowing you to adjust resistance on the pedals. There is a locking pin that can be dropped into position to restrict the movement of the rudder pedals, and that allows you to use the right pedal and left pedals as accelerator and brake for sim racing. It is a nice option for those who might use it. I did mount the 4 flat legs that extend out from the base. The rudder comes with a plastic mat as shown here, and the end of those legs have a peel-off sticky surface that can be used to affix them to the mat if you're going to use it, not permanently mounted in a sim. Although I did mount the 4 arms, as you can see, I ended up bolting it to the base of my sim. There's 4 bolt holes around the base of the central mechanism. I did not try the mat, so I can't vouch for that. And I think bolting it to a slab of 3/4 inch plywood would probably be a better option. So let's take a short test flight in the Flight FX Cirrus SF50 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. What better place to do that than at the McGee-Tyson Airport in Knoxville, Tennessee, where the Cirrus aircraft are delivered. Give the pedals from WinWing a trial. Taxiing has a real solid feel here, very easy to control. Just very small inputs are reflected. I don't feel any tendency to over control. Yeah, I really like the feel of these things. Let's try some brakes here and see how smooth those are. Yeah, good feel on the brakes. There's just enough resistance on the brakes that I can keep them even. When there's very little resistance, it's very difficult to push evenly on the brakes, and one tends to catch. That's because you're trying to match the angles of your ankles instead of the pressure on your feet. But I find these have just enough resistance that I'm not having any trouble controlling the brakes while I'm turning. And I haven't tried this in X-plane, but takeoffs in X-plane are very difficult to keep the aircraft on the center line because there's just something wrong with the physics there. I don't know. It's always been difficult, and I've got tens of thousands of flight hours, and I still find it hard to keep it on the center line. No trouble here. Easy to track the center line. Of course, there's no wind in here. That makes it easy with positive rate gear up. Makes it easy with an airplane that has centerline thrust and no P factor like a prop plane. Clear to the left, and we'll start a turn on a crosswind. Beautiful day in the Knoxville area. Just love the scenery in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So realistic. As we turn to the southeast, we can see the Smoky Mountains. Turning around, pointing towards almost towards Gatlinburg. Okay, let's try some rudder inputs just to see how the aircraft reacts. Left rudder, right rudder, left rudder, full left rudder, full right rudder. And we'll turn on a downwind now. I sound like a broken record, but if you haven't tried flying in VR, I don't know what you're waiting for. The Microsoft World with VR is just spectacular. And for $500, you can have the Quest 3 headset, which works very well for the price. There's lots of options out there, but even at that price point, you'll never go back once you start flying VR. And I know the head movements are a little annoying to watch, but I just really have a hard time flying any other way now. After we complete this circuit, I'll try again with about a 20-knot crosswind for takeoff and landing and see how that works. So far, I'm very pleased with these rudder pedals. I was looking for a replacement, as many of you probably are. There was a dearth of rudder pedals there for a while, and there's really nothing good. The Satec, the old Satec or Logitech rudder pedals really never did it for me. I liked the combat rudder pedals, but those were discontinued. TH had offered rudder pedals forever, but those too required you to have your feet up off the floor, which I didn't like. Turtle Beach came up with something that was a decent possibility, but I have never tried them, and I didn't try them because of the configuration, as I mentioned earlier. So Charlie seemed like it was perfectly timed when it was announced, and if they could have produced those at that point, I think they would have sold millions of them and they'd be everywhere. But so often we saw Nicky there unable to produce and meet the demand for all of his products, and taking in a really extended time to produce them. As we turn on to final here, I would say that this was a good purchase for me. I'm happy with them. They feel good. They're fairly compact. The damper's a nice added feature, which I'll have to explore further and maybe talk about in a future video. I would like to try to set these up for an airliner and see if I could replicate the feel. I have to admit I did feel a bit ripped off when I saw that shipping charge added at the last step of my ordering. But I got over that, and I feel okay about that now. So happy to see that this SF-50 is going to be a standard aircraft in Microsoft 2024. Again, no trouble with tracking the center line. Here's the brakes. Make the turn off. Yeah, it's a nice feel. I really like these things. I recommend them to anyone who's considering a new set of rudder pedals. Like I said, the main negative is the fact that you're looking at having to deal with a great shipping charge and distance for warranty and parts replacement. So now let's try a takeoff on a blustery day with a little rain and a 20-knot right crosswind, almost directly across the runway. We'll start off with full right aileron into the wind, and as we start to roll, we'll track the center line. It'll require a lot of left rudder. As the speed increases, we'll be reducing that aileron. And with a crosswind, it's best to make a fairly positive rotation, get that nose off and separate from the runway. There you can see we left a little too much aileron in there. The rudders work fine though. Not bad. Let's swing around here, and I'm going to set us up for a landing with the same winds and weather. As we roll out on final here, again with our 20-knot right crosswind, you can see with wings level, we would require quite a bit of a crab to the right, the nose well to the right, aiming well to the right of the runway. Now, we could do a forward side slip, and that's where you line the aircraft with rudder, left rudder, and hold the right aileron down, try to track down the center line. But that's uncomfortable. So most of us fly with wings level in the crab, and then we add the rudder and the right aileron, opposite aileron, right aileron, left rudder in the flare to align the aircraft so the wheels are tracking down. Then the problem is when we touch down, the wheel's not aimed straight on some aircraft. Let's watch this. Kick that rudder around, line it up, and we touch Right wing low, touchdown. You can see a tendency for that left rudder to cause the nose wheel to track you to the left until you get things back neutralized. Let's get on the brakes here and make the turn off. Wanted to try that with a little crosswind since it's a little more realistic to really get the feel for the rudders. Really, on a jet, you don't use the rudders for that much except engine out, crosswind landings, and for taxiing. But generally speaking, the rudders aren't needed that much like they are in a prop airplane where you have that P factor, as we mentioned before. So what's my bottom line on the WinWing Skywalker or Orion? They use both names, rudder pedals. Well, first and most importantly, I have no concerns about the way they operate. They feel great. I enjoyed using them. I like the adjustability of the pedal angle. I like the damper, lots of nice features, and the price is right. I think the sturdy construction and the Hall effect sensors should give it a very long, durable life. The only conceivable negative is the fact that it is purchased from overseas. It requires an extensive shipping cost, and replacement and warranty parts might be difficult to obtain easily. Lack of any documentation or assembly manual and the missing bolt were an annoyance, but certainly wouldn't stop me from buying another unit if I needed it. If you're holding out hope for a set of Charlie rudder pedals, I would say you might want to look at WinWing. I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope it was of some use to you. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I love your comments. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you on my next video.